Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is Saturday, August 21st. I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am here with the one and only Sugar Shane Caldwell. How are you tonight, Sugar?
I'm doing good. I'm enjoying these NBA bubble games. You see, the Lakers finally woke up and realized they were a good team. They finally got a little bit of contributions from some of their role players there. LeBron didn't really have to do much, but yeah, it was a good night for us in the DFS world of NBA again, and it was good to see the Lakers back to insert their authority in a little bit there. So it was a pretty good game though.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I mean, what an awesome day for the Coach Talk family. I mean, we got off to an unbelievable start in the PGA event that started today. We're way up the leaderboard there and looking really good. Baseball was just takedown hammer night. We really smashed FanDuel, fantasy draft, and even getting a couple in there in DraftKings that it's just finishing up. So fantastic night there, and then NBA, same thing. So anytime we have the three sports sweep, that's pretty cool. And some of our members played our PGA plays just for the first round only, and they cleaned up. So, and it was just an awesome day. I'm so fired up. And these NBA playoffs, fantastic. All day. I mean, you cannot beat it. It's fantastic stuff. So, all right, we're going to dive into this slate, but real quickly want to thank our presenting sponsors. That's mybookie.ag. It's the place to go for all of your sports wagering and casino action. You go to mybookie.ag, use the promo code Coach Talk, no space, all one word, and they will match up to 100% of your first deposit, all the way up to $1,000, and you get a free $25 free play just for being a Coach Talk listener. And also our friends at tvg.com. It is the #1 horse racing site on the planet. The best way to sign up for tvg.com is go to our website, dfscoachtalk.com, and click on the banner that says $300 risk-free bet. You sign up with TVG with the promo code Coach Talk. Again, no space, one word. And if you lose your first $300 bet, they will refund it 100%, $300 back in your pocket. Can't beat those guys. A couple things. We've been working this system and talking about it all throughout this NBA playoff run. Check out this podcast. It'll post early morning, middle of the night kind of time frame. So it'll be up there for the night owls, or it'll be up there first thing in the morning. You'll have plenty of time tomorrow morning on a Saturday, hopefully, that everybody can take a good listen podcast. And then follow us on Twitter and follow us on our Discord throughout the day for any changes, updates. We constantly are working on that throughout the day. And then be in Discord with us 30 minutes before lock, because news breaks, things change, it affects the lineup. Sometimes it's a domino effect, and there is some news that we still need to get. So you can join us and become a member at dfscoachtalk.com. Even if you join for 1 week, you just jump in, you get in our Discord, mingle with the best DFS community in the industry, and then just follow through, and we'll get all of these winners to you, and just enjoy not having to stress it, and enjoy some of these sweats that we're getting down the stretch. So that is it, my man. We are ready to roll with this. We've got game 1 tomorrow, and it is a 1:30 Eastern game, and it's the Toronto Raptors at the Brooklyn Nets. I'm going to double check as you're looking into this game. Actually, I just did, and it is up. Okay, we've got lines. How cool is that? We've got the Toronto Raptors, a big 10.5 point favorite, and we also have a 221 total, so a very healthy total. So the Raptors have looked fantastic. Brooklyn has played their tails off. So how do you see this game unfolding there, Shane?
So I see Vegas actually put the total down compared to last game here because the last game went way under. So they did adjust it down compared to the last game. And
Yeah.
Toronto was 11-point favorites on Wednesday. Now they're 10.5-point favorites. Now Brooklyn is scrappy and they played a really great game on Wednesday and they stuck right in there. And Toronto had to really fight to the end. But it was kind of a defensive battle. So the trend I see here, these teams are both fast-paced teams during the normal season. They're still playing at a pretty fast pace compared to some of these playoff teams, but they are playing at a slower pace in the series. The series pace is like 101 versus Brooklyn is 104 during the regular season. Toronto's over 103. So it's a little bit paced down compared to normal, obviously defensive battle, playoffs here. But here's the way I look at it. I think that, Joe Harris is going to be out. That's the biggest probably news on this whole fantasy slate with Joe Harris. They didn't even say why he left the bubble, but he left the bubble for non-medical reasons. It's almost like they threw up the white flag here. So I look at it as Toronto's going to put the hammer on him. And I would actually probably take the Toronto 10.5 here. I think Toronto's going to blow them out and put the hammer on them because they just have a unlimited of guys they can throw at you. And I mean, Brooklyn has some talented guys, but I just think that they're going to be out of gas here. So there's obvious plays here with, especially with Joe Harris out. I mean, Karis LeVert is, their superstar. He's 8,400 on FanDuel, 8,100 on DK. He's going to be pretty highly owned, I think, especially with Harris out. So I think he is a good play, but I'm a little worried about the blowout again. Is he going to be even playing in the fourth quarter towards the end there? I'm not quite sure. So if this game blows out, I do like the value plays, of course, being able to hit value even in a blowout and maybe getting more run at the end. So you got Garrett Temple, he's only 4,900 on FanDuel, 5,100 on DK, and you got TLC, Luau Cabaret, however you want to pronounce it. That's why we say Cabaret. Yeah, so that's why we would say TLC every time, right?
Exactly.
So TLC is he's going to be, I think, mega chalk, even though he's normally kind of an under the radar, young, talented guy. Right. But I think in this slate he's going to be mega chalk at 5,100 on FanDuel and 4,600 on DK. Really priced down there. Yeah. So, and he's just going to get up a ton of shots. And, I mean, he's got the green light. They got nothing to lose at this point. And then you could take a look at Jared Allen. He played really good last game, and he's reasonably priced in the $7,000 range on both sites. And he's very active, and he's going to have to score if they're going to stay in this. I don't expect him to stay in it, but those are the guys you look at, and the value guys are the best ones to target. And I expect to be highly owned here. Okay. And then over on the Toronto side, of course, all their starters, their main guys, and then also Norman Powell, whether he's starting or off the bench, those guys are going to do well as well, especially if it's a blowout. But I don't know if I like them as much if I'm projecting a blowout here because I don't think they're going to play that much. So obviously you got Lowry, Van Vliet, and Siakam. They're all in play, but the question is it going to be a competitive game? I do like Norman Powell because he's only 4,900 on FanDuel and 4,300 on DK, and he was on fire last game, and the guy puts up several stats, and he's a good shooter. He's just a solid veteran player. He plays defense, he rebounds, and he's a good shooter. So I like him at that price. Even if it's a blowout, I think he can hit value. He's really cheap, 4,300 on DK, 49 on FanDuel. So that's kind of where I'm at with this game. It is one of the faster paced games, so I can see people playing it, quite a bit, but I'm worried about the blowout. So that's kind of where I'm at here.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head, man. I'm really concerned about this game blowing out as well. I mean, losing Harris is another, just real tough blow to this team. And Toronto's playing such great ball. The only thing that scares me is Nurse is not one to take his foot off the gas. So if it's even a 15-point game, he usually extends his guys and they play. So, the pricing on the Raptors have gone up. Lowry's expensive, Siakam's expensive, Van Vliet is a little bit more expensive now. So, I'm concerned there with you. I mean, there's nothing worse than the guys just barely get to value. They're about to bust it in the fourth, and then they don't play. And again, he does stick with his team a little bit longer, but I don't know how Brooklyn hangs in there. I mean, they played so hard the last two games, and I stacked that game last time around, and it really, really paid off. I mean, it almost went to overtime. So, I'm with you, though. I'm going to really as much as I've loved the efforts and the numbers that Lowry and some of these guys, Levert specifically, have put up, I'm gonna try to fade this game as much as possible. So we're on the same wavelength here. I think you have to play TLC even as a blocker, at least for me in the cash games, because he's going to be extremely highly owned and he's massively underpriced. He shoots the ball a ton, and now all of those Harris shots, well, a majority of them will go to him. Temple will get a few more that he'll throw up there, but Jamal Crawford's still not playing, and they have a thin bench right now. So, if the first half it'll probably be looking good, but the question is, how long do they hang in there with Toronto? If you really want to get crafty and you really believe in the blowout and you're looking for value to balance some of these more expensive guys later, you can really roll the dice and try to play a Chris Boucher. I know he hasn't been playing much, and the games have been tight, and he's the first big man that gets in when the score extends a little bit. I don't know if you watched much of the last game, but Marc Gasol just looked like he was in a rec league game, man.
He's looked like that for a while.
He's looking old and slow, and and Ibaka's played well, but just as a super secret squirrel, Boucher's somebody to keep in mind, because he puts up 25 fantasy points before you can blink, especially if it's with other subs in there, because he's blocking shots and getting every rebound, gets a hand on everything. So just a sneaky play. I'll play him in my GPPs and then go with TLC as well. But I'm with you. I know it's risky because this could be the highest scoring game on the slate if it stays even a little bit close. But I think sometimes you got to roll the dice. There's some big price guys in the rest of these games, and I think I'm going to use my salary there.
Absolutely.
All right, game 2. It is a 4 p.m. Eastern game. It's the Denver Nuggets and the Utah Jazz. MyBookie.ag's updated line has the Denver Nuggets, a 1.5-point favorite. This is a heck of a series. The over-under in this game is 218. So we've got this game, the Celtics game, are in the teens, 218 and 216. So you got to be a little concerned there. However, you expect the regulars to get extended minutes if this game stays close, which this just looks like one of those series they're going to battle every game. So how do you see this one shaping up?
So it's good that it's a really close game, but it is a way paced down game. So again, I looked at, obviously these teams were low paced during the regular season, but the series pace, I know it's a small sample size, but the series pace is only 91.4. So this is kind of just a defensive half court kind of battle. They're not really getting out and running much. You can see that one of the lower totals at 218.5, one of the lower totals on the slate, along with game 3 that we'll get to. The big news here, Mike Conley is expected to be back here. So that does change things quite a bit. Obviously, he's a great point guard. I guess the question is do we think that Mike Conley is going to get a full run? Is he going to get over 30 minutes? And is he going to be, is he going to be a little rusty because in his conditioning?
What I just read is he is going to play. He's going to start, and he's going to get full minutes.
So he's a full go. So that's a very interesting play. So he's very cheap. He's 5,800 on FanDuel and 5,900 on DK. So I can see him actually being pretty high owned because he's a good guard. He's a commander, and if you look at the point guard options on FanDuel, they're pricey and there's not very many options here. DK a little bit different, but you have more flexibility. But on FanDuel, there's only so many options at point guard unless you want to pay up for your Lowrys and those guys. So so I think Conley will get some play here. And I think that the presence of Conley kind of spreads out the usage and distribution here. So it makes you not like Donovan Mitchell quite as much. I don't like Jordan Clarkson as much off the bench, or if he starts, I don't like him as much. And even guys like Royce O'Neal, it takes away from his limited, scoring that he does. And Gobert didn't really look that great last game. He just was weak. He couldn't get rebounds down there. He still played good defense, but surprising that for a big man like a 7-footer, he didn't really get that many rebounds, and he was just getting out rebounded consistently when I was watching that game. So I'm not really that big on Utah. I probably like Conley the most there. It's just, again, it's a pace down game here. And they're kind of spreading out the distribution now that they have some more of their guys back here. On Denver's side, Michael Porter Jr. did look better last game. He got a little bit of garbage time run at the end. So he's still pretty cheap, though, 6,800 on FanDuel, 6,700 on DraftKings. He's not one of my favorite plays, but he is a guy that you have to consider because he's super talented and they need someone to score, besides their big guys, their main guys here. So Michael Porter is someone to consider, but not my favorite play. And then I'm fine going right back to Jamal Murray. I really like him. He's in the $7,000 range on both sites. He's still pretty cheap. And I think Jamal Murray is it seems like he's that every other game guy. Like he'll have a blow up game and then he'll have an average game, then he'll blow up again. So I'm hoping to hit him on the every other time here. I like Jamal Murray and I like Nikola Jokic here. Jokic is a little bit cheaper than Embiid on this slate, where they used to be similar here. And I like the fact that Denver's coming off a loss and they're going to be ready to fire back and be a little bit more aggressive for Murray and Jokic. So obviously those are the two stars. I feel like they're going to be a little bit more aggressive and have more potential for their ceiling games here. And I think they're reasonably priced considering their ceiling. So that's kind of where I'm at with this game. What about you here?
Well, this is really bizarre for me, and I'm certainly going to be sitting in like last place after the first two games because I don't like this game. I know it's a competitive game, but because of the dominoes that have fallen back into place here, with Conley coming back, exactly what you said, to me, it takes a lot away from Clarkson, and it also takes a lot away from Joe Ingles. He's done well for me the last couple games because he's been playing a lot of that pseudo point guard, point forward kind of thing. So, and also, Donovan Mitchell's been phenomenal. He really has. But Torrey Craig is a fantastic defender, and he is really, really focused on stopping Mitchell. So I don't want to pay that price tag for him. O'Neal, we got a phenomenal game from him last time, 37.5 fantasy points. But man, it's one of those, do you want to go to that well second time through? He is cheap, but I do have some other plays that I like that are value plays as well. I'm with you on Gobert. I think the Joker and Millsap, some of these, bigger veteran guys were banging him around a little bit. And he's, his center of gravity he's so tall and thin. He went down a couple of times in segments, he falls in segments. So, I don't think this is the best matchup for him either. On the other side of the ball, I am considering the Joker just because he plays such a good all-around game. He has been getting additional minutes, but, you never know there. There are times that he'll put Plumlee in there and let him run extended. And, it takes some of those serious minutes from the Joker. Jamal Murray, again, I'm with you on that he's on or off. He's a streak shooter, big time streak shooter. When he gets hot, you want to have him. He is playable. I think his price is pretty darn good. And there's not a ton of point guards, that really fall into place. So Murray, as of right now, may be the only guy roster out of this game. I don't feel super comfortable, stacking much here because I do think this could be one more of those old-fashioned, close, hard-played, half-court defensive type games. So I'm going to have very little exposure in these first two games, but I do love the next two, thank goodness. So that's good.
Yeah, I think definitely game 4 is the game that we're going to talk about. But just back to this game real quick, I think Denver wins this game. I think Denver bounces back. And I think the way they do it is they actually give Murray and Jokic more minutes. And those guys, where the usage is going to come from. And they're going to be contributing in multiple categories. And that's the reason why they can beat this Utah team. So those two guys. having a huge breakout game. So that's what I'm looking for. Even though it is slower pace game, probably lower over under, we know where the usage is going. And those two guys, I think, can have their ceiling game, and they kind of work hand in hand as well together in terms of, assist and scoring and those type of things. So that's why I do like those two guys, even though it's not the best game environment.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention too, a lot of people are onto the whole Michael Porter Jr. thing. He's sort of the pick of the month kind of guy that everybody's liking, but remember that he's splitting time with Jeremy Grant, and Jeremy Grant's playing terrific. So they're going to split minutes, and that's a DFS disaster when you have two good players splitting minutes, because neither one will make value or have a hard time getting there. So I think I just don't want any part of that. So
yeah, when he peaked last game, it was really more in garbage time. He was hitting some threes, but the game was pretty much out of hand by that time. Utah had a hefty lead, and he was one of the only shooters still out there. So yeah, so it makes it look like he had a breakout game when he probably really didn't. And yeah,
he's good, but are you going to get the opportunity in the minutes? It's funny, and I'll give him a shout out on here, but Mr. Brenton, our buddy Brenton, and I were going back and forth because just for fun, but in Discord today, because I loved Eric Gordon today, and he did great. He smashed value. He did fine, but he was 0 for 10 from 3.
Oh yeah. Well, between him and Harden, they were 2 for 21 from 3-point land.
Yeah, really crazy, bad,
right? Yeah, and they still won.
But the point being is with Eric Gordon, when we do this, we're trying to get the guys that are going to get the most opportunities regarding minutes, usage. And if you take the minutes and usage and we maximize that with everybody that we roster, that's half the job. So, even though Gordon had a horrific shooting night, he got tons of minutes, tons of usage, got the ball up there. So he goes 0 for 10 from 3 and still smashes value and gets over 30 fantasy points. And, it's just, that's what we need to do. So what I'm saying with the Porter Grant thing, yes, sure, when you're talking about on the front level, Porter sounds like a great play. But when you really look at it, if he's splitting those minutes and his usage is dropping, which it is since the playoffs started, they were letting him have the ball and take a lot of shots in the play-in games, but now this is the real deal, and he's a rookie. So, that's where you want to back off a little bit and take a look at, who's going to get that time. And like with Gordon today, you knew he would get that because Westbrook was out, and that's just the way they flow with that team. So shout out to Brenton, man. I get the last word.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he's a great member of the Discord, though. So definitely shout out to him. He's awesome.
He's close to the best. Lanny's the best. He corrected me on that one today.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Boston and Philly, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. I love this game, man. I can't wait to hear what you think about it. Right now, mybookie.ag, we have Boston -5, and this game is only 216. It's very quietly low scoring game. What do you think?
Yeah, this is again the series pace is way down. It's 92.4. So again, real slow pace. I guess we're gonna see if Philly has any punches left. Are they gonna have their Rocky moment here? Are they gonna make a comeback because they're just kind of getting run that last game? And Boston, even without Gordon Hayward, looks really good. Those guys are playing great. I will tell you that you have to consider paying up for Joel Embiid, and it really comes down to roster construction. It is a little bit tough, on FanDuel because you have to lock them into the center spot where, on DraftKings, you might be able to, have more position flexibility. So some of these higher priced guys, it's a little harder to fit them in and get all the guys you like on FanDuel, but you certainly can pay up for him. He's $10,100. And then he's 9,800 on DK. But Joel Embiid looked really good last game, and he basically sat with 5 minutes and 30 seconds. It was 5 to 6 minutes left. He went out of the game finally, but he looked really good. There's no one that can guard him. He was completely owning Daniel Tice. They brought in Cantor and Williams and just all these guys they're throwing at him, and he was just torching them. So he looked really good if he can get a full game out of this. But the question is, can he can he and the rest of his guys actually stay in the game long enough and not get blown out here? Boston's only a 5-point favorite. So I do like Joel Embiid. It's just a matter of roster construction. Can you fit him in there? And is the game, are they going to get blown out again? I think I do like him in a bounce back spot, that Philly has a couple punches left in him to stay in this game. And I kind of like Boston as a close win. So I think that Boston will win. I just don't know if they'll cover the 5. I like it as a close game here, which means Embiid will get a full run. I like Josh Richardson at shooting guard. He gets point guard and shooting guard minutes, and he does a little bit of everything. And he's $5,000 on FanDuel and $4,800 on DK. So I like Josh Richardson. I think he'll be a little bit lower owned because of all these other kind of chalky, attractive shooting guard type players that you have on this slate. So I like Josh Richardson. He's getting pretty good usage. They need him to score. They need him to produce, and he can really fill up the stat sheet in multiple categories. He's shooting great right now as well. And he had reduced minutes big time last game as well because of the blowout. Yeah. And then, of course, on the Boston side, if you saw Tatum put up an amazing game because he was in foul trouble earlier and he was on the bench. So he didn't play that many minutes. And then at the end, he was pulled with 6 minutes left, right? So he put up he hit 8 3-pointers.
Yeah,
so
he's
he
on
was
fire.
Just completely on fire. And the thing is, I'm not worried about the regression. He's probably not going to hit 8 3-pointers, but I'm not worried about it because Tatum can get down low. He can drive. He can hit mid-range. He can do a little bit of everything. It's not like he's a one-dimensional guy that just pops threes all day. So you got to love Tatum, and he's probably going to get more minutes. And he's obviously right now he's playing like a superstar, and they really need him with Hayward out. So he's worth paying up for in that $9,000 range, Tatum. Again, it's just a matter of, you're not going to be able to play all the guys, so all these high-end guys. So that's the decision you have to make. But I'm kind of leaning Tatum right now. And again, I love Kemba Walker. I think that he just looks really good. He's finally hitting his stride. I know he hasn't hit any big ceiling games, but he pretty much was right around value. And that was with him, again, going out at the 6-minute mark last game. He's $7,200 on FanDuel. He's a little bit priced up. He's pretty cheap on DK, though, $6,600. And his shot looked really good. I expect his usage to be really high. I expect him to score a lot and get more assists. He hasn't been getting a lot of assists, but I think in this game, if he gets a full run, he'll get more assists and he'll score more. So he's just going to get more points in general. And if he can get a couple defensive stats, I really like him. And then Jaylen Brown is due for a bounce back game. You've seen what he can do in, game 1 with upwards of 50-point upside. And the nice thing is his price didn't go up because he had an off game and he didn't play as many minutes. So he's in the $7,000 range on both sites. So definitely it's a fire up Jaylen Brown spot. And then if you want to go down to a mid-tier value play, I actually like Marcus Smart in this game. I think Marcus Smart is going to get somewhere around 35 to 36 minutes in this game. He obviously didn't get as many minutes last game because of the blowout. But I feel like if he plays the whole 35 to 36, I know he's not a great shooter. He's kind of streaky. But if he can hit a couple shots and get a little bit of scoring, he's going to fill up the stat sheet everywhere. I mean, he's one of the best rebounding guards. He's really good for steals, blocks. He can dish the ball. So I like Marcus Smart, and I think that he's going to be lower owned, similar to Josh Richardson, because of the chalk with all the other, value price guys and kind of mid-range, higher price guys that I think are going to be highly owned here. So I think you can get Marcus Smart at lower ownership, and he can smash value. I think he can score over 30 fantasy points, and he's only in that $5,000 range. So that's kind of where I'm at here.
Yeah, there's a lot of good plays in this game. I know the over/under's low, and I think people will skirt away from this game, because of that. But and let's face it, Philadelphia is a hot mess right now. They're talking about firing the coach. The team looks flat. There's a lot of problems there, which really makes me concerned that this could just be another blowout. And we could run into that same issue. What I will say though is, to me, I think there's two decisions that are the most important ones that you have to make on the slate, in my opinion. Either you put the Joker at center or you put Joel Embiid. I think you need one of those two centers because there's a fairly heavy drop off after that. I feel the same thing at power forward. I think either you use Jason Tatum or you use Kristaps Porzingis. And again, pricing for both of them, you've got Embiid $500 to $700 more than the Joker, and you have Tatum about $500 to $700 more than Porzingis. So they're both in the same ballpark. You certainly can't roster a combination of three of those guys. It's going to be two of them. So those will be the two biggest decisions that you have to make. For me, I'm leaning towards Embiid over the Joker right now, just because I think he is going to step out and lay it out there, even if it is in shorter minutes. What I'm going to do, though, on this one decision, because I think it's such an important one, I'm going to sleep on this one, and I'm going to share it in Discord tomorrow. I have not made up my decision on is it Tatum or Porzingis. They're both going to play. They're both red hot right now, and I think that could be the difference in the slate for you on what decision you make there. As far as the ancillary guys on both sides, I'm not really keen on chasing some of these split minutes guys, and I know Jaylen Brown could go up and down. Same thing with Smart and Josh Richardson. All those guys, I agree that they're decent plays, but I see those plays more so in GPPs. I don't feel as comfortable and consistent with them in cash as I do some of the other plays I think we can get in this final game specifically, where there is some value and we're expecting very little defense and some very high scoring. So there are some very important pieces in this game, whether it be Embiid, Tatum. You can go a few other spots if you want. I wouldn't pay up for Tobias Harris at this moment, but I think that you take the key guys from this game and then look to do somewhat of a stack of 3 or 4 or 5 guys from this last game. So rather than complicate it, I think really that's what it comes down to as far as those key guys.
Yeah, it's hard, it's going to be hard to get away from game 4 here. So, but I think that Josh Richardson and Marcus Smart are both going to get massive minutes, and I think they're going to get a little more usage than they normally would in the way this has been playing out for these teams. So that's why I do like those guys, and they're going to be much lower owned. And I do think it's very interesting, Porzingis versus Tatum, which obviously we're going to talk about Porzingis. I just want to say that I think Tatum's going to be obviously much higher owned, right? So Porzingis would be nice in terms of gaining an edge on the lower ownership. So I think that would be a good transition into the next game here.
Yes, and the last game is an 8 p.m. Eastern game. It's the Clippers at the Mavericks. The Clippers are only a 5-point favorite, which is pretty fair. And we've got that big fat 232.5. So this is definitely, I know it's a lot of people are going to stack this game, and to some extent, this is going to be the chalk game. And if you guys listen to us every day, I very rarely, dive on with the chalk players in that game. I look for something to differentiate, but I think to some extent you have to eat some of this chalk. I mean, this game is, 12.5 points higher in Vegas's eyes than any other of the 3 other games on the slate. So that tells you something. The pace, the defensive ranking. The Clippers are not playing the kind of defense that they played during the year. So things, in this game really shape up for another high-scoring affair. And the way Dallas has played, they won that second game. If KP doesn't, with the bullcrap call get thrown out, they may have hung in there and won the first one. So the Clippers are in a dogfight. I think this is going to be one of those games where, it's an all hands on deck for both teams. You're going to see extended minutes, probably from the key players, mainly being Porzingis, Luka, Paul George, and Kawhi. They're all going to have to play because, as you know, when it's tied 1-1 in series, that third game is a huge game. It changes the entire shape of the series. So give us your take on this one, and let me know who you're looking to stack from this game.
Yeah, we talked about series pace, again, small sample size, but this one is like a huge pace up. These were already a pretty fast-paced team, but you're looking at a series pace of 104.3.
Yeah.
I mean, just to give you an idea, Dallas's normal pace is 101.7, and they're, a decent pace team.
Yeah.
Clippers are normally 104. So this is a big pace up spot. for both teams. And obviously, if you watch the game the other night, you've seen it. You look at the over/under. So everything is lining up here. I think this is a big bounce back spot for the Clippers. I think the Clippers are the best team out there right now, and I think they're going to come back with a vengeance. And I think they're really going to. I think that they could win this game easily. Actually, I know that Dallas is looking good, and I totally agree that Doncic is arguably the best player in the league right now, especially on the offensive side. And Porzingis might be due for a breakout here. But I look at Kawhi Leonard, for example, and he's been, producing pretty good fantasy value. And it seems like he's not even trying out there. Like he's pretty unselfish player. He's a really disciplined player.
That's the way he always looks, though. He's a robot, man. He doesn't sweat. He doesn't breathe hard. He's like just goes out like a cyborg,
He is, but there are some games where he gets that killer instinct, and I haven't seen that from him yet in the series, really. He's played good, so I feel like this is going to be one of his killer instincts where he's bringing out the claw, So I really feel like this is a blow-up spot for Kawhi Leonard here, that he's going to get even more minutes and more usage in this game because he's been deferring a little bit, even though he's scoring like over 30 points. So that's my point here, and he's still under $10,000, which is probably criminally low priced here. 9,700 on FanDuel, 9,600 on DK. So I'm looking for big things for Kawhi Leonard. Paul George was in foul trouble last game. He never really got into a rhythm. He hasn't looked good, but he has the potential to blow up here, but he hasn't really looked great in general. So it's hard to get excited for him around that $8,000 range, but he's in play. I mean, if you're stacking this game, you're going to have to play some of these stars. Then, of course, Lou Williams looked really good last game, and I think he's going to be pretty highly owned. He's 5,600 on both sites. My only concern is that, they have a lot of different guys that they can get usage here. And I feel like if Kawhi and Paul George is playing a little bit more because he's not in foul trouble, hopefully, that Lou Williams will lose a little bit of his usage and shots that he had on the last game. So I'm not as excited about Lou Williams, even though I think that most people will agree that he's one of the best plays in the slate in this really high-paced, high-scoring game, and he looked really good last game, but I'm not that high on him in general, even though all those things line up. And then I really like Marcus Morris. He just looks really good. I mean, he's out there playing center at times. I mean, he's doing everything. Even though Harrell's coming back, he's getting more minutes, and it looks like Zubac is probably getting cut into minutes, if anything, as these guys are playing a little bit more small ball. So I like Marcus Morris in that $5,000 range on both sites. And the guy does everything. He gets defensive stats, obviously rebounding. He's playing center at times there. And I really like his shot right now. He can score in the mid-range. He can post you up. He can hit threes. So I like Marcus Morris, and I still think he's getting 30-plus minutes. And he's really competitive, and he's just playing great right now. And they do need him to score to keep up with this pace here as well. And then I think the big question is, do you pay up for Doncic here? I mean, he's 10,500 on FanDuel and 10,800 on DK. And the whole debate this whole series has been the Clippers have all these defensive stoppers that can really attack him and take him out of the game. And he's still done well, but
he's done better than well.
He has. He's done great, but the point is he hasn't been able to really smash value at that price for fantasy wise. Right. He hasn't had that huge ceiling game, and you kind of need that because if you're paying up for that. So it's a little hard in terms of roster construction to pay up for that. You do have a lot of value. I can see it being a little easier again on DraftKings just because of the position flexibility, where FanDuel, you're kind of trapped into more solid positions and you don't have as much flexibility.
Well, let me ask you this. At 10-5, we know he's got to get how many points to make value. But, I get it. He's got to be, 56, 57 fantasy points. But here's the thing that I'm looking at. If you look at this entire slate, who is the most likely to get 65 to 70 fantasy points on the board here? I'm just talking about if everybody had a zero salary and it wasn't an issue, it would be Luka, because you've got, Kawhi and Paul George sharing the ball. Embiid, we don't know how that game's going to go as far as blowout or not. The Joker doesn't always get his number, etc. So to me, again, I know it's a salary and we've got to watch, but I've had some value guys up to this point. This is where I'm going to roll the dice. And trust me, I have faded Luka and Porzingis as much as anybody. Yes, I'm a Mavs fan. It's not, as far as that goes, I don't even count that at all when it comes to fantasy. So you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Now, I like both guys. I like Luka and I like Porzingis, but I still have to make the decision between Porzingis and Tatum. I think it's a razor thin decision to make. But I just think Luka's an automatic play for me today.
Well, can I just say you may have to make the Porzingis decision for roster construction because he's a little bit cheaper. You might need that savings because Luka's so expensive, and that's kind of my point here. You're going to have
Right.
to make those decisions, but you are going to get Porzingis at a much lower ownership and a slightly lower price, which could help you for your total
I
roster.
don't think he's going to be as much under owned as Tatum that you think. I
I
think
think
it's
he
going to
is.
be I don't think it's going to be a massive difference. I think Tatum will be owned a little more. I just don't think it will be, double the ownership or anything. But I could be wrong. The guy that I think is just automatic here is I think Paul George is grossly underpriced, and I know he hasn't been playing great, but he's Paul
Hmm.
George, and he could drop 60 DFS points in a heartbeat. So Paul George is my favorite player from this entire game. I also absolutely love Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell. So this is my stack game. I'm gonna just jump right out there. Paul George, Montrezl Harrell, Lou Williams. I love on the Clippers side. On the Maverick side, I think you have to roll with Luka, and then you have to make that decision whether you want Porzingis or not. And again, it's going to come down to the salary. So, I'm going to be 4 or 5 deep in this game and roll with a lot of value in the other games, other than probably Embiid, and then just make it work from there. And it's going to be tight. I mean, it's going to be tight, and we never say take all the most expensive guys, but if you're going to take a stand on guys, for me, I've decided I'm fading Kawhi. I'm going to fade Levert and all those expensive Toronto guys and Donovan Mitchell. So you got to give something if you're going to spend up, and then find value in other spots. So I think for me, I'm not afraid to go in the chalk game with a lot of the field. I'm going to look to differentiate myself with a few of the guys that, the value guys that I'm going to sneak in there. Because I'll tell you right now, you're going to need, if you play most of those early games and fade some of this game, you better have a huge lead, because there's going to be
Oh yeah.
fantasy points popping up here like fireworks on the board.
I completely agree with you. I guess the question is, if you're talking about Montrezl Harrell, are you interested in him on FanDuel then at center? I mean, he's super cheap. Or are you talking more DK strategy there with Harrell?
Well, I'm looking more DK and fantasy draft. Fantasy
Okay.
draft, you can have multiple bigs. I
Yep.
probably won't go there, when I'm strapped at center.
Yep.
But I do think that Harrell's a great play. I think you just do not roster Zubac, in my opinion. But I will tell you, the Mavs struggle against powerful centers. But I think Harrell gets the majority of those minutes. He's back. He looks good. And I think that he's been a thorn in the Maverick side for a long time. So
Yeah, he's 4,100 on DK, so you really can't complain about that price.
you
So
can't.
if you feel like he's going to get a lot more minutes, what did he get? 22 minutes last game. He wasn't
I could
super
see 20,
productive.
27, and I think he
Yeah.
steps it up another notch or two. And again, for that price, you can't go wrong. And Lou Williams is cheap too. Lou is too cheap.
Yeah,
Uh, and
5,600. Yeah.
and the Clippers have a lot of guards that are just, for people that continue to roster all these guys, Reggie Jackson, Pat Beverly, Landry Shamet, Terrence Mann, I could go on and on. They're not worth a bucket of bolts, in my opinion. So I wouldn't even waste your time with those guys.
So what
So,
about Marcus Morris then? You're not really that big on him.
Marcus I think he's playing great basketball, but, and I'm a Marcus Morris guy. I really am. I played him all the time in Detroit, and I think he's a good player. I just, they're assigning him a lot to Luka, and he has a lot of other, aspects of the game other than scoring and grabbing DFS points. I think because George slumped a little bit, and they didn't have Harold back in that first game, I think you saw the ceiling for Morris in those first 2 games. And I think he's more of a, wow, Morris is playing great, I'm going to roster him. And I think he's going to be way more higher owned than he should be, because everybody's going to look to him as a value guy. And I would assume he's going to regress just by the fact that I expect George to step up.
Well, you know what happens on FanDuel. If you look at the power forward position that you're kind of locked into on FanDuel, you're kind of like, ew, it doesn't look great. So there's only so many guys you're going to play, and it's going to be really hard to pay up for Tatum and Porzingis. Obviously, that would be pretty tough to do.
You can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I still like Morris there, but
he's not as cheap as he was either. That's the only problem too. It's easier when he's dirt cheap, but
I still think he's pretty cheap. But I know what you mean. He's went up a little bit in price.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on that game?
No, I think that's it. I will say that, and this is the really bold prediction here. I feel like, if I'm predicting Kawhi Leonard for a blow-up game here, even though he's not necessarily always a high-ceiling guy, that I think that he outscores fantasy points, outscores Doncic, and the Clippers win easy. I know that's a bold prediction, but that's super bold because I know Doncic is a machine and he's awesome. But I feel like I told you, I think that you're going to see the Kawhi, the killer instinct Kawhi.
All right, what's the side bet? Luka against Kawhi. Total fantasy points.
I don't think I'm going to do any side bets.
Oh, you chicken.
But I put it on tape here. I put the bold prediction on tape here. So
I posted a picture of you in a chicken suit in our Discord.
That's fine. You can do that.
All right, brother. All right, a couple things I want to mention too. If you're watching this right now on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up, the subscribe, and click the alarm that gives you that alert when our podcast posts. That is really important to us. If you're listening to us everywhere podcasts are heard from the audio side, if you go to iTunes, please click the 5 stars and leave a comment. We are going to have a contest drawing at the end of the month, so we're already at the 20th, for a free 1-month membership. So definitely do that if you can. On YouTube, again, we're at DFS Coach Talk, and that's where we need that thumbs up and that subscribe button. Instagram, DFS_Coach Talk. And on Twitter, you can follow us at DFS Coach Talk. I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi. He is at DET Sports Shane. Our man Andrew is at Language Olympic. And Freddie Mills, our golf and baseball and everything else expert, great articles. He is at FREDDIEMILLS7. So you can catch us all there. Check us out for sure. We want to mention our charity of choice here is mambaon3.org, all spelled out. That's MAMBAONTHREE.org. Wonderful charity set up by the Bryan family. And speaking of that, 4 days from now on Monday, we're going to do a really special thing in honor of Kobe on Kobe Day 824. We'll be announcing that on tomorrow's show. Andrew and I will start off the show talking a little bit about that. So I'm really excited about that as well. So that's it, my man. We got to get this sucker edited and posted so we can let everybody determine if they're on Team Shane with Kawhi or Team Coach with Luka.
Yeah, you don't mind taking Luka in that bet. Yeah, I don't think you mind at all.
Hey, Kawhi's the best all-around player in the game, in my opinion.
He's the type of guy that
the floor. So I don't blame you.
Yeah, he's not a good guy to bet against when we're talking about playoffs time here. Yep. But Luka is pretty amazing. But yeah, I think that the Clippers can make it difficult for him again. But we'll see. All right. It's pretty awesome.
All right, man. We'll be butting heads in Discord. That's for darn sure.
Yeah. Definitely.
But great job, man. Great information. Great stuff. Enjoyed it. And we're going to go in tomorrow. Keep the momentum going. Like I said, day 2 in PGA, we're already at the top of the leaderboard there. We're going to attack baseball after a monster night tonight. And then keep our streak going in NBA. I mean, knock on wood, man. We're knocking it out night after night in cash and on all the sites. and taking some GPPs down as well. So let's keep the momentum. Let's, keep the positive thoughts. And we say in our Discord all the time that, we're trying to rally time and
Positive vibes, good
yes,
vibes. Yeah.
and that's been working for us. So whatever you got to do out there, if you got to turn in a circle, rub your head and whistle or whatever it takes to send those positive things coming in, let's do it. So we'll get it done, man. So good job tonight. Appreciate it. Good late night show. And it's going to be fun tomorrow to see how this all plays out. And then Andrew and I will be back on tomorrow for NBA for the Sunday slate. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll catch you again tomorrow as we look to crush it in DFS.